Here we go, episode 5 of the Hibs Ramble. Myself, Craig, back again for another week with Liam. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Quite nice to get a wee recording earlier on in the week.
For a
Um,
change.
yeah, Michael's working late tonight, so we've decided to bring it forward a wee bit. How's your week been so far, anyway?
Not too bad, mate. I've been hitting the gym quite a lot recently. Try to shed some timber, eh? How about yourself?
Same, mate. I'm back playing back at the old kicky ball myself. We were through at Falkirk on Sunday, 1-6-5 after being 5-2 down.
Scenes.
It's absolute scenes, and one thing I've learned about myself is never ever to shoot for outside the box ever again because
It
each
trickles towards a goal, eh?
no, if anything, mate, it actually went even higher over the bar with each shot I took. So I'm just going to stick to spraying it
Stick to
left
the
and
lane
right.
spray, mate.
Yep, exactly. Anyway, onto the big matters at hand.
See,
Late,
just before we get started,
yeah.
right? I've got a message for Down the Slope podcast. I submitted a question to Down the Slope yesterday for the recording last night, and I listened to their podcast, and I realised that I got the spelling of Greg and Ewan's name wrong. And I would just like to apologise to absolutely nobody. I'll spell your names how I want. And
The,
also, we would beat you in an Anchorman style battle. So that'll be that. It's squashed now.
yeah,
Podcast beef is over. Unless you
uh,
want to reply to this.
I felt quite offended by how little airtime I actually got. Like you and Michael got quite a decent mention, and
You're an afterthought, Craig, to
yeah,
them.
Greg was
I'd not
just
be having
like,
that.
ah, nah, I can easy cash. I did think that Liam was probably the right choice for Ringerell, given that he was
Oh yeah. He's the
the main
sexiest of all of
he
us.
was the main star of the Hibs home strip reveal.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's silly to try and fight with him on the attractiveness front,
And also, he
I
said that
believe.
I would probably go on and win it all.
Yeah,
He would
he also
he-
did
would be
say
backing
that
me.
he also did say he didn't think that I looked that big when I seen him in Perth.
I don't know who he was looking at. He was maybe looking at the wrong guy.
Yeah, because I might not be big up the way, but I'm definitely big out the way.
He sure is, Liam.
But
He sure
anyways,
is.
on to the most important matter at hand, the late show at Easter Road again on Saturday, 2-2 against Rangers. These late goals, apart from St John, obviously that's now St Johnstone Hearts and Rangers, sort of thrown it back in the face of a lot of us that thought this Hibs team didn't have a bit of character about them, a bit of dig about them.
Yeah, certainly different to last season. I think after the Derby last minute goal, I said to my dad, I went, I can't actually remember a last minute equaliser or a last minute winner that we scored at all last season. So it's maybe something that Lee Johnson has kind of installed in them to keep fighting towards the bitter end, and it's obviously paying off. Admittedly, we were against 9 men on Saturday, but you can only beat what's in front of you at the end of the day. So, it's all props to the team for keep on going until the last blow of the whistle.
Definitely. I think there was obviously a bit of eye raising about the team when the team came out. We kind of knew about Chibraya that he was. I was surprised to see him on the bench, in all
So
honesty,
was I.
given the news that he'd suffered a loss during the week. We kind of had an idea that it would be Campbell coming in at left wing back, but then also Rocky came back in for
Yep.
Nohan Kenna and Jake Doyle. Jake Doyle, this is
In for
shocking.
Henderson, aye.
No, 'cause Henderson started.
Oh, in for Melkerson then.
Melkson, yeah, that's it. That was the change. Do you know what? It went right out of my head because Melkson was out the squad completely.
Yep.
So we went with what looked like a 3-5-2. Obviously, up until So we got to around about the 25-minute mark. How did you feel that we were looking within that setup? Because so far we've kind of went with this 4-3-3 sort of narrow-ish formation at times this season.
Yeah, I was actually quite happy to see Josh Campbell in at left wing back because I thought he did well when he came on at wing back against St Johnstone on the opening day. Obviously, he scored. Um, but I felt that that was probably the strongest team that we could have put out with the personnel that we had available. And then for the first few minutes, first 20 minutes or so before he changed it, I felt like we were just kind of coasting. We weren't causing Rangers any problems, but they weren't causing us any problems. You could see the dangers of Kent doing our right, getting behind Cadden every time, but I felt like we had enough bodies in the middle of the park, in the middle of the box to deal with anything that came across. And every time he tried to chop in, he lost the ball, and he wasn't really given much of a threat apart from beating Cadden every time down that left-hand side of there. So I was quite happy, but I wasn't screaming on Johnson to change anything. To be honest, I was actually more surprised than anything when he did make the changes.
Yeah, no, I thought, like you say about Kent, Kent was getting sort of, he does the same to every defender. It's, he just ambles towards him. So like he's got such a quick turn of pace. He's incredibly agile and he can change direction so quickly. I think
Yeah.
there was only one real opportunity where Tom Lawrence, I think it was, had the ball right practically almost in the same situation as what Sancho did last night for Man United.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason he decided to pass it, and I think we got off with one there. But I mean, I didn't think it was as bad as Lee Johnson obviously did because he changed it in about 28 minutes where he took off Paul Hanlon and Ewan Henderson and brought on Chabi and this is shocking. Who else did he bring on?
He brought on Chabi and he brought on Deutsch.
Doys, that was it. Jesus God, man, my memory's all
Your
over the shop.
memory is
Terrible.
having a bad
Yeah,
day
so
today, Craig.
kind of, and then obviously went to the back four with Doidge through the middle with Yuan and Boyle either side of him. I thought initially that change actually made us worse because
Yeah.
it felt like the team they'd obviously set up it so it wasn't as if it was like for like and sort of try and fit in system wise. I think maybe for the first couple of minutes it was, and then eventually as Chabi went further out to the left back, Campbell sort of pushed more inside into centre midfield. But it still didn't feel. I don't think Doidge touched the ball much in the first half, and it's frustrating because you think that up against that Rangers defence, who are not great defensively, putting Doidge right on either Goldson or Sands and having Ewan and Boyle playing off of him would have been the right thing to do. But it seemed as if for the rest of the first half we were just, like you said, it was just coasting.
Yeah, I felt like we were a little bit. I can see what Johnson was trying to do. I was actually watching the 91-25 analysis earlier on when I was having a shite, and and I don't know the guy's name that runs it, but he was talking about the system change when Elie Yuan and Martin Boyle went out wide. It was because the players that we had out wide weren't getting past the wingers to then attack the fullbacks, and that's where we spoke about last week is where we're going to get joy is attacking those fullbacks because yeah, they're good going forward, but defensively, there's questions to be asked. I felt like he changed it, and I could see what he was trying to do. I don't think the players really understood mid-game, or maybe it was just kind of lost in translation a little bit. But second half it was different. But of course, we've got to talk about a couple of penalty shouts before we get on to the second half.
I think it was brave of Johnson to obviously he's far more qualified to see what's happening during the game than what we are, and the fact that he's changed it so early does give me cause for optimism. It's not like he's going to sit on his arse and just sort of wait and get till half time. That's obviously not in his psyche. He wants it to be, if it's not working, he wants to change it as soon as he possibly can. But before the change happens, we'll just kind of quickly cover them because the Rocky Bashiri one, where the free kick gets flighted in, and there's a coming together between Rocky and Tavernier.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of shouts at the time.
No, I can't even remember the incident. From where I was sitting, it's kind of difficult to see what's going on and what's happening inside that box anyway.
Yeah.
But at the time, there wasn't an awful lot of shouts around me for penalty. Looking at it back though, I just don't know. I don't think either are penalties,
Yeah, I
to be
think
honest.
the Rocky one is heightened by the fact that Rangers get given the penalty that they do. And
Hmm.
then the argument comes out. I mean, I seen that Dermot Gallagher was on Sky Sports News yesterday talking about it. And, he says that because Hanlon's got his arms on Tavernier, that negates the foul on Rocky because it's, they almost cancel each other out. But what he fails to speak about is the fact that Tavernier's got a handful of Rocky's jersey before Hanlon's even near him. The only
Yeah,
thing for me is that I think the contact initially starts outside the box.
I
It's
thought that as
very,
well.
I think depending on, obviously, we've not got the benefit of the Premier League TV cameras that sort of capture it from almost every angle. So you have to try and go by what you see from the main stand side camera. But I didn't actually think it was in the box.
I
However,
thought similar. On looking
however,
at it back, I
I
don't
still
think actually. I don't think the contact starts inside the box. I think he gets a handful of his jersey. They take a few steps, and Rocky turns,
and then he pulls
and
him down
then
in the box.
and then he pulls him
Yeah.
down. But I think that half of it is Tavernier pulling him down, but Rocky's probably out of balance, off balance when he's running in and he's turning and then jumping like that. It's when he's got someone on his back, he's probably off balance anyway, so he'll go down a little bit easier.
Hmm.
But Michael Stewart was saying if you give those penalties, and you need to give 100 every week.
Yeah. And I think, as you can see from certainly the games down south, is that they're trying to let the games flow a bit better. They're trying to stop picking up on these wee fouls, which is fine, but it's just that level of consistency
Yeah,
because it comes to obviously then it's 44 minutes. We're getting to half time. We've not laid a glove on them. They've not really laid a glove on us. It was a sort of back. It wasn't a poor game, but it was one of the games where it feels like a lot's happening, but nothing's really happening.
nah, I get you.
And then obviously Porteous gives the ball back to Marshall, and Cholak tries to turn and run in, obviously, just to close Marshall down. I mean, the ball's never going to be in his possession. And Rocky just sort of puts his arm round his waist. Now, again, for me, I understand the argument that people are having is that if Rocky's putting his hands on him, he gives the referee a decision to make. However, the way that Cholak hits the deck is nothing short of embarrassing. The way
No, but
the
I
way that,
mean,
the way that Rocky touches him, I can only compare it to, right. See, when you're trying to squeeze past somebody in a boozer, and you put your arm like you're like, oh, cheers, mate. You kind of pat that like and
yeah,
try and get like you almost put your hands on their hips to sort of like slide past them. That's the only way. And there's no way that level of contact that Rocky is given entitles Cholak to hit the deck the way that he does.
no, I agree. I do agree with every bit of what you're saying. Although the main thing for me is why does Rocky even do it in the first place?
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's throwing his arms out, and it's not aggressive. And obviously, any contact that Cholak feels contact, he'll go down. It's a striker's game, and chance getting a penalty. You either get a penalty or a yellow card for diving. So I mean, it's silly for me from Rocky, but it's I have seen it back. I do think that there's contact there, and he goes down. I mean, is it a penalty? I think it's no one that you're screaming for, but you'd be happy if you got it. It's a really difficult. It's weird because people are saying, "Aye, it's no a foul, but it's a penalty, or it's a penalty, but it's no a foul." You know what I mean? It's a really divisive topic
Yeah,
at the moment.
it's almost like it could be. It's like it could be a free kick in the box, but
I
not
think
be a penalty.
I
Do you know
think
what I
if
mean? Like it's one of those ones where it's, I hate this argument. If it's anywhere else in the park, it's a foul. A football pitch is the
nah,
same back to front.
yeah,
If it's a foul in one area, it should be a foul in the other area. But I
yeah,
don't even think that type of foul. I think if that happens on the halfway line or sort of just inside your own half, the ref's waving at the player telling them to get up because
yeah, maybe.
Rocky had him in his pocket for the first half.
Hmm.
Cholak never got a sniff, and you could tell the longer the half went on, the more irritated that Cholak was getting, and the more animated he was getting that he was getting nothing out of the referee.
Yeah,
So obviously Rocky gives away the penalty.
I
Uh,
th just for moving on, I think it's one of those ones that 100 referees could watch it. 50 of them would give it. 50 of them wouldn't.
yeah,
You
I
know what I
think
mean?
with VAR it doesn't happen. I don't think. I think when VAR comes in, that that gets waved away.
I
I
wonder if
think
there's going
anyway.
to be new camera angles though, because the camera angles that we saw that were taken at Easter Road, I don't know if they're going to put any new ones in because they still weren't like that great for looking at that incident.
You'd have to think
There was
so.
only a couple of angles.
Um, but anyway, we go in 1-0 down at half time, undeservedly so, I felt. But come out come at the blocks to start the second half. Josh Campbell gets the ball in that sort of left, almost the left wing back area that he was playing in the first half. And I hate to say I told you so, but we spoke last Thursday and I said the area that we should attack is that area between the centre half and the full back, whether it be Goldson and Tavernier or Sands and Barisic. And Campbell plays like the weight of the pass is absolutely perfect.
It's superb.
There's an argument that Ewan was offside. I think it was incredibly close. Either way,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. I think in those ones they always say you give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker. So he's either level or he's either just on or just off. I thought he'd held on to it for too long,
hmm
almost similar to the derby. I thought he'd taken that extra touch, but then that's why I'm sitting up in the stands paying 400 quid a year to watch it, and they're on the park doing it because he's timed it perfectly. And Boyle does what he does best, and he gets in between the centre halves and pokes it past McLaughlin to go 1-0.
it was a really well worked goal actually. Massive props to Josh Campbell because he kind of skips a challenge in the middle of the park before he slips it through to Yuan.
He doesn't
And
skip it. He puts his foot in and actually wins it. I think it's. I can't even remember who it was. Was it maybe Matondo? Rabbi Matondo?
who cares? Who cares who it was? But it's been slipped through to El Yuan, who I think does excellently in those wide positions, especially at the byline. Even when he's not got the ball, his work rate is absolutely superb, and his footwork as well to keep it so close and then to pick out Boyle again and for Boyle to tap it home. It was a really good goal. It was a good one to watch. It's probably one of the best ones that we've scored this season in terms of making it and making the play rather than just like counter in or anything like that. So I was
Yeah.
really happy when we scored it. I was absolutely buzzing, screaming,
I
and
think
then
it just goes to show you how easy it actually is to score a goal. Because it's
yeah,
literally
exactly.
been from Campbell winning it, playing it to Ewan dribbling ball. Like whereas when you compare it to last season, we're going side to side to side to side to side. All it takes is for that one, and that's came from admittedly someone who you wouldn't think or class as being entirely creative, but
Yeah,
Campbell's
well, we talked about that last week as well, didn't we?
he's put the ball into an area where Tavernier can't get it and Goldson can't come for it.
Yeah,
Then
a great ball.
Yeah, no, it was. And then sort of the only time we really got cut open was the Rangers' second goal for Tom Lawrence. I mean, I was obviously I've got a higher vantage point than you being in the famous five upper, so you kind of get a better overall view of the game for that, for that higher angle. And as soon as Kent received the ball, I turned to Alfie and I said, "They're going to score," because you could tell for the way that the game had opened up to that point where Barisic had made the run down the left. So if Kent decides to drive at goal, Cadden's snookered either way because it's 2 against 1. And then you've got, I think Joe Newell fails to track Lawrence's run. He seems to be a bit flat-footed. As soon as that 1-2 is made, the Lawrence is already at a point where he's going to be meeting the ball at pace. It's not going to be as if the cross comes in and he's standing jump. He's running onto it. And to be fair, it's one of the goals that aesthetically is quite pleasing. A 1-2 cross bang goal. But again, I felt we were unlucky to go in to be finding ourselves 2-1 down. We didn't. I mean, to my memory, that's the only time that Rangers really cut us open.
Yeah, it was disappointing just so quickly after we'd scored as well. But it was one of those moments and when you play Rangers and Celtic, they have these moments, don't they, when they can just click and everything just turns on for them. And that was one of those moments. And I don't think, whatever anyone did, Marshall never had a chance. It was a great run by Lawrence. Unfortunately, Joe Newell was just a little bit too slow in getting to him. The ball was too high for Poacher to clear at the front post. So it's just one of those ones, I think. And it's frustrating, yes, but at the same time, we are sitting here talking about that's the only time Rangers really cut us open. Yeah, they scored twice, but one of them was from a set piece. So if we can limit to Rangers to one clear-cut chance every time we play them, we're going to be in for a really good season.
Yeah, but then you counter that by that they only needed one chance, and I think they had 2 shots on target the entire game, and they scored for both of them. So we're given a lifeline. John Lundstrom red card. Obviously, at the time, you're screaming for it because it looks, again, for where I am, it looks as if he's just lunged in and caught him.
It looked bad in real time.
Hindsight of replays, it's one of those typical, take one for the team type fouls.
Yeah.
Now, my own opinion is that it's not a red card, but it should be a red card. Like we said in the chat, it's not, the laws of the game are pretty clear in that kind of. I don't think it was excessive force. I don't think he's went in to injure. He's not went to injure Boyle. You could argue that by running at pace, a slight clip like that could have injured Boyle on the way down. But I don't think that's Lundstrom's first thought isn't, "Oh, I'm going to hit him here." His first thought is, "Fuck, he's away. I need to try and stop him." So
I think I'm in the same camp as you, but for me, it's a red all day long because he's a horrible Rangers bastard.
Aye, we'll not try and be objective about this at all.
There's no point in that.
No, I just think that it's, and there was this talk about the Doyle Hayes challenge, which when you look at it,
that one does look bad.
Almost looks.
I was expecting him to walk, to be honest.
Yeah, to me, it looks as if he catches him on the ankle. Again, that's just dependent on the speed of the replay that you see, because everything looks worse when it's slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doyle Hayes' saving grace is that the ball was there. He was just late, whereas Lundstrom had no intention of going for the ball. And that's where my argument is. If you've got no intention of going for the ball, it should be a sending off.
Yeah, I think also that was before Colum, I feel, lost the game. He lost the game when he awarded the penalty. And I think it maybe got in his head a little bit. And then he's seen that challenge from Lundstrom. He's seen it from behind. And Boyle was away. he's maybe thought it was worse than it was, and he's shown the red card, and then he's just continued to kind of lose the plot. But I do think that Alfredo Morelos was a clear sending off because he goes for Chibra twice and kicks him.
There's an instance where he trips him up beforehand.
Yeah.
And then he does. I think the first one is. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right, and say that he's just feeling for him. But the second one, because there was a question of, if you throw an elbow, you close your fist to get a proper, it doesn't feel the same doing that as it does that. For the benefit of those listening, I'm just making a fist and not with my right hand. But he catches him with the forearm and he swing. It's not as if he's putting it out to feel. He actually swings it.
For it.
And it just, once again, it's just pure idiocy for Morelos. I mean, he's had so many of the brain farts, and it's not as if it was bad enough that they were, it wasn't as if he was taking them down to 10 men. He was taking them down to 9, which then caused the weirdest 15, 20 minutes of a game I think I've ever been at. Where Rangers,
completely agree.
Where I think Rangers took off Matondo and brought on a young centre half. Stephen Davis ended up coming on as well, and they just sat with a bank of 5 and a bank of 3 and went, "Come on then, try and break us down." And you could see the headlines after the game. Oh no, Hibs struggle to defeat 9-man Rangers, but defending against 9,
you're attacking against 9.
You're attacking against nine bodies in a
9 defensive bodies as well,
in a small confined area. It's not easy. It's hard enough to break it down when you've got
4.
If you think of a typical game, you could have 4 or 5 players attacking. So you're defending against 4 or 5. So when you then get the ball on the turnover and get up the park, you're attacking against 5 or 6. And sometimes even that's hard to get through. So by putting the 8 bodies plus the keeper behind the ball, you could tell it was difficult. I mean, I think we'd done the right things. We didn't panic. We didn't try to rush it. We kept moving the ball from side to side, looking for the opportunities. Chibra was putting in a good few balls. But again, there was a point where, similar to the Hearts game with Rocky, where Lewis Miller had the header that was right at McLaughlin that he saved, and I was like,
you thought that was it?
That was it. That's it. Game over.
I kept thinking. To be fair, I was quite adamant that we were going to score, but I did say to my old man, I went, it's going to take something special to get through this year because we're not just going to waltz through. There's 9 of them sitting back and defending the goal, if you include the goalie. But it just felt like every time that Rangers cleared it, there was no one up top, and it was always running through to Porteous or Marshall, who was basically sitting on the halfway line at this point.
Yeah, and that gave me flashbacks to absolute fear of the Euros.
Yeah, I know, but I know it's difficult, like you say, to break down teams that have had 1 man sent off, never mind 2 men sent off. Josh Campbell spoke about that, but yeah, it's just one of these. I was the same as you. I kind of thought at one point, oh, here we go, it's going to be 9-man Rangers win against Hibs, and it's going to be one of them. But thankfully, it was Big Joshy who saved the day.
It was a great ball in for Chibra. Doidge, who's been quite maligned recently, obviously knocks the ball down.
And see, for that, you wouldn't be surprised if Doidge, who's out of confidence, out of form, tried to make himself the hero and try and steer that header towards goal. You wouldn't have blamed him for that. Yeah. I mean, you probably would have moaned at him, been like, fucking pass the ball, man. But you wouldn't have blamed him if he'd have tried to make himself the hero.
Yeah.
But he's nodded it back out towards Campbell, who's absolutely lashed it. And I say he's lashed it, he's not actually. He's taken it down with a really good touch, hit it on the half volley, hit it really sweet. If he's scuffed it or no, it doesn't matter.
I think you watch it back, it seemed to take an age to go in.
It kind of looked
Like even the bounce, like even as he's taking the touch on the chest, the bounce up seemed to take ages. And I think if he hits it any other way, it goes right in McLaughlin's arms or it ends up beside me.
yeah.
Because you watch the replay and it just seems to slowly go into the net. And I mean, I think as we sort of start to wrap up on this week's episode, I think we should give a lot of props to Josh Campbell because he has been the target of an incredible amount of stick from supporters, from pundits, from here, there, and everywhere. I don't think there was many Josh Campbell supporters out there, but given how he's impacted, he's basically, out of the 5 points that we've got, he's been responsible directly for 4 of them.
Yep.
2 goals, 1 assist. He's slowly becoming quite an important player in this Lee Johnson team. And hearing him talk after the game as well, he's a massive Hibs fan. It means the world to him. I think people should maybe just start to lay off him a bit.
I
and
think
cut him a bit of slack.
everyone, I mean, you always seem to critique the players who have come through the academy a little bit more. And I don't know why, but it's just a thing that football fans do. And, I've been guilty of it. I've, slated Josh Campbell numerous times in the past, something that I'm not very proud of when it comes to now. But I spoke about it last week, about how I've done a face turn and
Yeah.
I'm now, a big fan of Josh Campbell. I don't think the players that we had last season and the system that we played last season under any of the managers that we had really suited him. I feel like now with the players that we've got and the system that Lee Johnson wants to play and where he's playing them suits him a little bit more, and it's going to tell, I think, and he is going to be a big player for us.
I think the issue was obviously when he played against Rangers at Hampden, he was almost played in the 10, and then under Maloney he was almost played like a 6. And I just think it was easy. It was easy for people to scapegoat him because of how poor last season was. But here's hoping that this sort of game, this sort of result can be a catalyst to for us to start the game well for a change.
Yeah. No, sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
Right. Before we wrap up, let's go through a couple of questions. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so we'll go to Liam Riley first because he cried at us the last time we never answered his question. Apart from the standard pie, what other kiosk items from up and down the country do you rate highly? Not necessarily just in the Prem. I wouldn't get anything else other than a pie. So
I like a pizza twist. The pizza twist at Easter Road last season was good. I don't think I've had anything other than that. Although there's some good pictures on that Footy Scran Twitter, like Chinese munchie boxes in that at football.
I think this one for Callum we've already sort of covered, saying he was really impressed with Johnson's bravery to make 2 big subs after half an hour on Saturday to allow a change of shape. What's your thoughts? Again, I've said I'm quite happy with that. It shows that he's not just going to sit on his arse and be like, "Oh, we'll get to half time and we'll change it." If something's not working, he's not arsed at who he upsets as long as it benefits the team.
Exactly. If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and Stuart Anderson posted on the back of that. He says he agrees totally. Sub and Hanlon at that point was a big call. He's very impressed by the management team. It's like chalk and cheese compared to Ross, where everyone could see he was flogging a dead horse in games and didn't know how to change it. Just quickly as well for Callum, out of 10, how do you rate our start to the league season?
Out of 10, I would say a 7 because I would have expected us to beat Livy.
I'll go a 6.5 purely based on the Livy result. That was a sore one So I want to take. Finally,
Especially now after we've got a point against Rangers and a point against Hearts. The game against Livy feels like a really missed opportunity.
yeah, exactly. And Billy, our old pal Billy Sterling, Johnson said to the BBC that we need 2 ready-made players to come in. What positions do you think he's talking about? Also, it was mentioned we need some outgoings first. Who will be shown the door to make way for these 2 signings?
Well, I covered this last week, so
yeah, I would say Doidge. I think Doidge, and I think I said Campbell as well. But that was going on what other people said because I'm a sheep and I follow what other people say. I do think position-wise, centre half and centre midfield is what he's looking for.
yeah, I think Doidge is probably one who's on his way out, and I agree with you. Centre half and centre midfield looks like that. Luke McCormick and there's a boy for Swindon as well.
Harry
Don't know what
McCurdy.
his name is. That's him.
Harry McCurdy, yeah.
Who we've been linked with. So I don't know anything about either of them, but get them in. Hibs class.
Yep, exactly. So that'll wrap up episode 5 of the Hibs Ramble. We might be back during the week to do a St Mirren preview because there's still a lot can happen between now and Friday. We didn't want to record something to put out for it to be a total load of shite and actually have no relevance to the game whatsoever. But if you can just keep following us on all our socials at the Hibs Ramble across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, but also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But have we any other orders of business, or will that do us for this week, Liam?
No, I don't think so. Apart from what you're having for your tea.
I don't know because I've got football training tonight, so
I'll
probably just get something when I get home.
Fair enough.
What about you?
I don't actually know. Well, like I said, I'm on a health kick, so it's probably going to be something bland and tasteless. But I'm miserable.
Like your
doing a health kick.
personality. Ha ha ha.
Not happy with that, Craig. Not happy with that comment.
You know I love
Really,
you.
I'm not.
Anyway, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening.